Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. In today's video I'm going to be ranking the LRs. Of course I'm also going to be ranking LR Margaret, who was just released on JP, but please do bear in mind I have not used her, so my opinion is only from what I've seen and not from what I've actually experienced, but the other three I can go off what I've experienced. So first, of course, is LR Liz. So LR Liz, in my opinion, is probably the best character for no matter what game stage you're at, whether you're whether you're a, OG player like myself or a newer player. Even if you don't have this Liz, I would still recommend your first LR being this Liz. She's very good. She's super broken in PvE, which is what you want. She's got insanely high crit resistance. 110, I'm pretty sure, is one of the highest, if not the highest in the game. Her buff skill's good. Sorry about that random pause. The phone went and I had to go check who it was. It was no one important. But I don't know what I was saying. Liz is very strong. Even in PvP, I've been using her in the Chaos mode. Her buff is insane. 30% defense rate starts at level 1 for 2 turns. As well as a cleanse. 60% for 3 turns at level 2, which is actually, it's half decently common. And this AoE skill has Flood, which is insane. Also, she has actually quite a nice crit chance. 106%, kind of decent for Liz, because, well, she's meant to be a healer, meant to be a support. Of course, her ultimate, it does scale. Unfortunately, the buff does scale, the healing also scales, the gauge does not scale. But her passive, really busted in PvE, and even she has an all modes bit as well, which I think is just the cherry on top, kind of useful. Really like that. That's really it for Liz. Liz is very good, and I would easily put her at number 1. Her usefulness in PvE will be a long-standing thing, because passive healing is insane. She's got cleanse, she's got heal, she's got an ult which gives her ult gauge, gives your team ult gauge as well as an attack buff, and you're also able to ult rush every ult with her. If you play her ult and then another card afterwards, you immediately get her ult again, and you can just keep ult farming, which is of course very useful for Nidhogg, and I'm pretty sure I did that on my Nidhogg video with her. With that, you also get of course her LR outfit as well, and because she shares the same character as Green Liz and Hostess Liz, you do have a lot of outfits for her already, which is kind of nice. My next one, I'm going to put the new Margaret there, and the reason I'm saying this is because she also works in PvE as well, and she can be used for Nidhogg, she can be used on final bosses, knighthood bosses, all that kind of stuff, so I'm putting her for just overall usefulness. I would put her there, mainly because, well, she's an LR. Unfortunately, she did not actually need the LR, because the main thing she actually got from it was a stat boost. She already has half decent stats as it is. This is attack crit down, by the way. And she's got 61,000 CC for 3/6, is very good. The attack crit down gear is not even that good. She didn't actually get much of a buff either. It's, in my opinion, it's not. I'm not going to say it's she didn't. It was a wasted LR, right? But it was a wasted chance to give another person LR. She's an improvement. Don't get me wrong, but there could have been another LR that would have been a lot better to a character that was a lot less usable than Margaret. Margaret was still usable. She was still on the goddess team. All you did was slightly increase her stats. Now she's tankier, and then give your team an extra crit chance and crit damage, because her passive doesn't change much. In my opinion, she is, if you were to look at the kits before and after of every LR, she would have the least changes. She gets an extra line on her passive, an extra 2 lines actually on her passive. Her buff doesn't get buffed much at all, and her AoE becomes a debuff skill. That means it can now be turned off by debuff skills. So someone's using Suicide Liz, they can now stop you from using this skill. And the multiplier doesn't even go up much. The debuff itself is actually kind of good, which is decreased crit resistance, but the multiplier only goes to 143, means it only gets 13%, which isn't much. Her ultimate doesn't actually gain any percentage, but instead at 6/6, it increases the enemy's damage dealt by 20%. No, it's either 20% or 50%. But the damage doesn't really change much. It's 300k at 6/6 with perfect, everything. You've got every weapon, you've got everything. It's not much, unfortunately. But I'm still going to put her second because of PvE usage. Of course, if you don't have red Margaret, you can use blue Margaret, which would, yes, be a downgrade, but you would still, of course, get the extra crit chance and crit damage from the LR passive, as well as getting the 40% basic stats. I know you wouldn't get the healing and the stance removal, but unfortunately that's sometimes the price you have to pay to be able to beat Nidhogg. You have to switch out characters every now and again. My next character will be LR Escanor. Mainly, because of his usage in speed farming pretty much any PvE content that isn't, of course, a demonic beast, but speed farming final boss, event bosses with Roxy. Unfortunately, I don't have Roxy, but his usefulness like that. Also in PvP, his ability to one-shot. Yes, he does need one a humans team, which in my opinion is, it would definitely knock him down a little bit, but he is very good. And would I recommend getting him as your first LR? No, realistically. I'd put him kind of lower on the list of, like, he's definitely worth getting. Like, I would say you probably want to go for, of course, if you don't have Lost Veins Relic, he should be at the very bottom of your priority list, because the difference between with Relic and without Relic is kind of a lot, unfortunately. But I would put LOL is number 1, Margaret 2, Escanor 3, because he's a lot more common, and you're most likely going to have a higher ult level, and of course Lost Vein would definitely have to, unfortunately, take the 4th slot, because, well, he really needs his Relic to be good here, and that's the main thing, really, is that you need his Relic, and it's a Nidhogg Relic. The other relics for the other characters, I think, like, they're like Bird and Deer, which are very easy to beat now, in comparison to Nidhogg, that for some people is actually still quite a struggle, and that's the reason why I would still put Liz number 1. And then, of course, unfortunately, I'm going to have to put LR Lost Vein at 4, mainly because his Relic is so impactful to how he performs. Like, if you don't, the difference between with and without Relic is a lot of damage. At 6, let's just say you had him 6/6, but you don't have his Relic, you're going to be doing 50% less damage because you don't have his Relic, which is a lot of, like, damage you're missing out of. And, his skill increases his ult gauge, that's going to be hitting hard when you have the Relic, and the difference between with and without Relic is kind of insane. You've got the actual stats from the Relic itself, which are quite a bit, and unfortunately this is a Nidhogg Relic, so it's not like it's a really easy boss to do, and it's not infinitely farmable, so it's quite a commitment sort of thing, where then you could get someone else's Relic, you could get Queen Diane's Relic, which, she doesn't have an LR, but even with her Relic, she's still very good in, like, PvE and PvP, where LR Lost Vein, I want to say he's mainly a PvP character in PvE arena. He doesn't really have any other places, which is why I've put him so low. He's not good for event bosses. Maybe he's good for Howlix. Maybe he's good for OG Demon. But apart from that, I'm still sticking him very low because I see more use in the others than I do him. I don't, I'm not going to say I don't use him, because I do. Because I use him for PvE arena because, well, the AIs are idiots and they'll just use AoE skills and level him up, and then he can just wipe. Because with Relic, he can wipe the team. But without Relic, the damage is insane. If I go, like, there you go. So now I've turned the Relic off, right? I no longer have the Relic. I'm going to use... I'll get to max ult gauge, and I'll use this level. I'll use this skill at max ult gauge. So this will give me, like, a lot of ult gauge now, and I'll just use this one to give myself max ult gauge. So it's 136. Okay, now we'll do this one, which is actual gold, so I want to test. 220k. Okay, remember that. 220,000 damage. And then we'll try that again with the Relic equipped. Yeah, the Relic does give basic stats, but, that's just what it is. So 220k, it was. That's off of him. So we come back up to here, we come here, we go test again, just so you can see how big of a difference it is. So he's doing 220k with max ult gauge. He's already beat that with... with just the Relic equipped. Okay, guys got max ult gauge. It was 220k without Relic. With Relic, an extra 120k. That's a lot of extra damage. Then factor in, you've got the ultimate, which then scales with the ult level, like damage-wise as well as the effect-wise as well, as you can see. But that's just how it is. Maybe in the future he'll get more uses, and then I'll be able to, like, bump him up on my list. But currently, it's LR Liz, LR Margaret, Escanor, and then Melly at the end, unfortunately. But the reason I'm putting him down there is because the fact you need his Relic to make him really pop off. Like Escanor, he can still pop off without his Relic, but his Relic is really easy to obtain, so there's no excuse for you not to have his Relic. Whereas Melly, there is an excuse not to have his Relic, because the content you have to beat is kind of hard, and you can get better Relics from it, in my opinion, in comparison to Melly's, which isn't that impactful. In terms of, like, account progress, I would say. I'd say Diane's, it gives you quite a lot of account progress, allows you to do and farm things a lot quicker. Anyway, thank you for watching the video. I hope you guys enjoyed. I'll see you next one. Goodbye.